Welcome to Uganda CaseFiles, a channel dedicated to telling the stories that were never given the attention they deserved. Here, we explore real cases from Uganda, stories of lives cut short, families left without answers, and voices that were silenced far too soon. We approach every case with care, respect, and compassion. No exaggeration, just the truth and dignity for the victims and their loved ones. Our goal is simple: to remember their names, to give space to the stories that were forgotten, and to honor the families who still carry the weight of these losses. Thank you for joining me as we shed light on the cases hidden in the shadows. This is Uganda CaseFiles, and today we tell their story. On a quiet morning in July 2015, villagers walking through a sugarcane plantation in Lugazi, Uganda, made a horrifying discovery. Lying among the tall green stalks was the body of a young woman. She had been brutally murdered. Her throat had been cut. Within hours, investigators would identify her as 19-year-old Mirembe Desire, a first-year medical student at Makerere University. A young woman with a promising future, a daughter deeply loved by her family, a friend known for her kindness and gentle spirit. But what shocked many even more was who police believed was responsible. The man accused of killing her was not a stranger. It was her own boyfriend, and the fight for justice that followed would take 8 long years. This is the story of Mirembe Desire. Today's case takes us to Makerere, Kampala, the home where Desire grew up. Born in 1996, she was raised mainly by her father alongside her younger brother after her mother moved to the United States. From a young age, Desire showed signs of maturity far beyond her years. She began her early education at Kampala Kindergarten School, where teachers remember her as a bright and curious child. She later attended Kampala Parents School for her primary education, where she continued to excel academically. But it was at Mount St. Mary's Namagunga, one of Uganda's most respected girls' schools, where her potential truly shined. Teachers described her as disciplined, intelligent, and deeply focused. She especially loved the sciences. Her dream was clear. She wanted to become a doctor. Her hard work paid off when she earned admission at Makerere University, joining the College of Health Sciences to study medicine. For Desire, this wasn't just a career choice. She wanted to help people, especially children and vulnerable families. But tragically, she would never live to complete that dream. Beyond academics, Desire was known for something even more special: her character. Her father described her as caring, responsible, and incredibly dependable. Because her mother lived abroad, Desire naturally took on many responsibilities at home. She helped take care of her younger brother. She handled house chores. She made sure everything in the house ran smoothly. In many ways, she became the emotional center of the household. Her father once recalled how she suggested renovating their family home. Not because she cared about luxury, but because she believed her family deserved a beautiful and comfortable place to live. That was Desire, always thinking about others. Her friends describe her as someone with a heart of gold. She was humble, kind, and deeply compassionate. Many of them even jokingly called her the queen of forgiveness and second chances. She believed in giving people grace, in understanding others, and in choosing kindness whenever she could. But perhaps the thing people remember most about Desire was her smile. It was warm, genuine, and unforgettable. The kind of smile that made people feel safe around her. The kind of smile that lit up a room. Sadly, the same kindness that made Desire so loved would also place her in a dangerous situation. While studying medicine at Makerere University, Desire met another medical student named Mathew Kirabo. At first, their relationship appeared normal. Mathew came from a well-off family and carried himself with confidence. But behind the scenes, things were very different. According to people close to Desire, the relationship slowly became controlling and emotionally manipulative. Mathew reportedly monitored her movements closely. He allegedly paid hostel security guards to inform him whenever she returned to her residence and who she came back with. He demanded to know where she was at all times. He pressured her to do things she wasn't comfortable with. At one point, he insisted she gets an IUD so she wouldn't get pregnant, even though she didn't want it. He would send cars to pick her up without warning, expecting her to meet him wherever he wanted. What began as a relationship slowly turned into control. By early 2015, Desire was emotionally exhausted. She turned to someone she trusted deeply, her pastor. She confided in him about the manipulation and the stress the relationship was causing. After listening carefully, the pastor advised her to end the relationship immediately. He told her the situation was unhealthy and urged her to walk away. Desire tried to distance herself, but Mathew wasn't willing to let her go. And just a few months later, everything would take a tragic turn. On July 10th, 2015, Mathew called Desire and asked to meet. He said he wanted to talk about their relationship. They agreed to meet at Oasis Mall in Kampala. The two sat down together and shared coffee, but the conversation quickly turned into an argument. Despite the tension, Desire got into Mathew's car. Perhaps she believed they could resolve things privately. Instead, Mathew began driving towards Jinja. When they reached Lugazi, he turned off the main road into an isolated area near a sugarcane plantation. There, in a moment of horrifying violence, Mathew cut Desire's throat, killing her immediately. He then left her body in the plantation and drove back to Kampala. But the deception had only just begun. After returning to Kampala, Mathew tried to cover up what he had done. He sent false messages from Desire's phone to her family, claiming she had been delayed in Jinja. He even returned to her hostel pretending to search for her. Later, he went to Deliverance Church attempting to create an alibi. But the truth would soon emerge. The next day, July 11th, 2015, villagers walking through a sugarcane plantation in Chibubu, Lugazi, discovered a body. They immediately contacted the local chairperson, who called the police. The body was taken to Kaolo Hospital. Soon after, Desire's family was asked to come identify her. For her father, the moment was devastating. In court, he spoke about the unbearable pain of losing a daughter who had been the heart of his home. He told the court that Desire was responsible, loving, and full of dreams. a young woman who had worked so hard to become a doctor, and now she was gone. Investigators traced Desire's phone records. Her final communication had been with Mathew Kirabo. He eventually surrendered himself at Central Police Station in Kampala. After questioning, he confessed to killing Desire, but the road to justice would prove long and complicated. In 2016, Mathew was granted bail, and while Desire's family continued grieving, Mathew returned to Makerere University, completed his medical degree, and even began working at Mulago Hospital. Years passed. The case moved slowly through the courts. In 2020, Mathew's lawyers even requested that his passport be returned so he could travel to the United States for further studies. For Desire's family, this felt like justice slipping away. Frustrated by the delays, they wrote directly to the court demanding progress. Finally, in 2021, Mathew was summoned to Mukono High Court and the trial began. But even then, there were more delays. At one point, his lawyer told the court that Mathew could not attend because he had COVID-19. The court later discovered that this was false. During that same period, Mathew had actually been celebrating his wedding to another woman. Soon after, realizing he was likely to be found guilty, Mathew fled the country. The court ordered his sureties to pay 150 million Ugandan shillings for helping him escape. His sentencing was postponed until he could be located. On September 12, 2023, Mathew Kirabo was arrested in Kenya by Interpol. He was extradited back to Uganda and remanded to Luzira prison. On November 21, 2023, he appeared before Mukono High Court. Justice Henry Kaweesa delivered the long-awaited judgment. Mathew Kirabo was sentenced to 30 years in prison for the murder of Desire Mirembe. He pleaded with the judge to reduce the sentence, arguing that he was a first-time offender. The court considered this and reduced the punishment from the death penalty to a 30-year prison term. After deducting the time already served on remand, he will spend approximately 29 years in prison. The sentencing sparked widespread debate across Uganda. Many people felt the punishment was not enough. A young life had been brutally taken, and the man responsible had even attempted to escape justice. For some, the case highlighted deeper concerns about the Ugandan justice system, including delays in court proceedings and the influence of powerful families. Others believed that, despite the delays, the most important thing was that Mathew Kirabo was finally held accountable, and that he would no longer walk freely among the public. But beyond the courtrooms and legal debates, there is a young woman whose life was cut short. Mirembe Desire was more than a victim. She was a daughter who loved her family, a sister who carried responsibility with grace, a friend who believed in forgiveness, and a young woman who dreamt of becoming a doctor and helping others. Her story reminds us of the importance of recognizing control and abuse in relationships, because sometimes the warning signs appear long before the tragedy. Mirembe Desire deserved to grow older. She deserved to graduate. She deserved to live the life she dreamt of. And while justice may have taken years, her story will never be forgotten.